hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
It is Judd's Hockey Show. What a time to be alive and be a hockey fan. Plenty to get to up with the season shutdown for the National Hockey League. But the Foreign Nations face-off is absolutely outstanding. It's Judd. It's Jessi Pierce from Bardown Beauties also does a great job covering the Wild for NHL.com. AJ, as always. But before we start, I want to talk to you about my favorite beer. That, of course, would be the beer brewed by Padregs. Why are they the favorite of Sports Dad? Because all they do is beer. They don't do a bunch of other drinks. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. What they're trying to do is brew the best beer possible. I've been talking about the red for quite some time now. Irish Porter, the Dry Stout, IPA. I could go on and on. But what I want to tell you is that Padregs now available really throughout the Metro. Lunds and Byerly's, Kowalski's, Haskell's, Hy-Vee, Total Wine Cub, MGM. This is a beer that you are going to want to try. If you don't see it, definitely at your favorite liquor store or bar, ask for it. Padregs, they do beer and only beer, and that's why it is so delicious. All right, kids, tomorrow, Thursday night, we're coming off the U.S.-Canada epic tilt on Saturday, the U.S.-Canada, the rematch in Boston on Thursday. Jessi, we have not talked to you since last week, so you lead us off. Your thoughts on what you saw on Saturday and your thoughts on what we might see on Thursday in Boston.
I just want to take a victory lap around everybody who thought that this tournament was going to be pointless, was going to be boring, was going to be just another all-star game.
You're right.
Give me a break. Like, I have been
Why
thrilled.
did they think
We've talked about it. I had a bunch of people in our comments from last week's episode on Bardown. I don't know if you guys have felt the same. And Joe O'Donnell, who I spoke with yesterday, play-by-play for the Wild, he said he heard from a lot of people that just were like, it's probably not going to be that good. Like, and I think we're spoiled, right? Like, us media members have been around the players, so we get to see firsthand how excited a lot of these guys were. So maybe that's why. Also, I recognize that my affiliation with USA Hockey goes deep and spans over a decade, right? So, I mean, that could be, but there were a lot of naysayers, I think, that just were kind of tuned out of it. Like, it's not going to be that great. They didn't know what to expect, maybe. And maybe because they hadn't watched the World Cup in 96, right? They haven't seen this best on best. So I can understand that respectfully, but also respectfully, you were wrong. We were right. Well, this is so good.
My objection based on guys being hurt was based on the intensity, not the like. If I thought that this was going to be like an all-star game, I never would have bitched and moaned. Like, my concern was, as AJ and I talked about on the episode on Monday, Jessi, these guys had waited since 2016 to play a best on best. 2014 was the last Olympics, and this was like, once they dropped the puck, I knew it was going to be great. Now, it's probably Saturday night probably exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like, my only concern, and the hockey's been fantastic, was driven by these guys, led by like the Kachucks. They were going to go all out. There was never a worry that this was going to be like some boring exhibition, and it's been outstanding.
I do love, and the internet remains undefeated, right, with all of it. And I love that you're getting, JJ Watt, who I know loves hockey himself, but you're having all these outside people weigh in because of that Canada game, which saw 4.4 million viewers, the most of a non-Stanley Cup game since 2019.
Yep.
But my favorite meme I think I saw where it was like NBA's, we can't play, we have a sore ankle. Whereas in the NHL, it's, I will die for my country in this exhibition game. Like, there's this heated passion, and you're right. I think Saturday exceeded even my expectations a little bit. It's being played in Montreal. I had that live show with Natalie Darwitz at Tom Reed's, and the vibe was immaculate starting at 6:00. Like, I will be there on Thursday. No live show, but if you guys want to come on down and get there early, because tables were full. I mean, it was so cool from puck drop. Then you get 2 seconds in, the Kachuk brothers, put them on Mount Rushmore, man. Big Walt did something right. The greatest contribution. I love it. And then JT Miller hopping in there as well. You could feel a little bit of a letdown then, I think, in yesterday, because especially with Canada winning in regulation to clinch their spot in that championship game, all of it was just kind of like, like I only tuned in for a period of USA versus Sweden too. And I do feel a little bad for Sweden, because I think they were a very good team in this tournament. Mm-hmm. And they pushed Canada to that overtime and lose to Finland in overtime as well. So a little unfortunate, but Luckily, Eck and Broads get out unscathed as far as we're aware. Philip Gustafson had that little illness. I believe he should be okay. But what you saw Saturday, to do that on an away rink was tremendous. Now, I am a little worried come this rematch on Thursday because Canada feels embarrassed. You know what I mean? I think they feel this is their sport. This is their country. This is everything. And the U.S. came out and kind of pounded them down physically and mentally for the better. So I'm so excited. I'm curious to see what happens defensively for for Team USA. Charlie McAvoy ruled out for Thursday, top defenseman for the red, white, and blue. But just because we love this made-for-TV scenario that is now happening for nations, Quinn Hughes is coming over like George Washington across the Delaware, baby. He is Mr. America. He was ruled out before the tournament. He gets to be recalled. And as long as they have one more injury, is able to play. But I love it. I love all of the narratives. Brandon Hagel earlier today, guys, saying, no, that fight wasn't for the cameras. It was for the flag on my chest. Like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, it's just so dramatic. And I need more of it. Just right into the veins, baby.
It's great.
So I'm excited. Did I answer everything? I rambled. I'm so excited.
Oh, it was great. No.
That's fantastic.
So
yeah, no. It's great. Age, go ahead.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind when I saw the Quinn Hughes announcement was like that scene in Captain America, like right at the beginning after he gets all the injections and the casket opens or whatever, and there's like steam and stuff, and he's just like there. That's Quinn Hughes right now. Quinn Hughes. He was made for this moment. The question is, which defender is going to have to come out? Which one's mysteriously going to have a bad sushi roll or something like that? So the stomach's a little under the weather. I can't play. We have to get Quinn Hughes in the
Pretty
lineup.
Clear which one's going to be.
I think so, right? Jake Sanderson?
It's got to be Jake Sanderson, I think. Like, take one for the team, man. Like, just do it. Maybe block a shot in practice. They've got practice coming up. Oops. Ow, that hurts.
Ralph Cox is remembered fondly. You can also be remembered, Jake Sanderson.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been... I've watched every game, and it's been so much fun. And yeah, I was never concerned about the fact that it wouldn't be fun. I'm with you, Jessi. I got some concerns, though. So two things when it comes to the rematch on Thursday in the championship game between Canada and the U.S. The first thing is 2010, right? The Vancouver Olympic Games. The U.S. won the first time. They meet in the championship game. That's the Crosby golden goal game. So certainly Canada is going to come back. In
overtime. Like, let's just relive this PTSD that I have. Zach Parise scores epic goal to push it to overtime. Game. I was watching with Canadians, and actually I got my USA Hockey internship like shortly after that.
Why were you watching with Canadians?
Because there was a bunch of Canadians on our Iowa State hockey team. So we were all watching it together, which was my ultimate nightmare when they ended up winning. To make it worse, USA Hockey has this cutout hockey player in front of the building. And I had taken a picture of it. It was my first day at work. And my Canadian friends all said, wow, that looks pretty silver. And in fact, it does look silver, which is even more heartbreaking. But yeah, it lives in my memory forever.
So now Crosby, 26-1, right? Because he was 26-0 going into the game Saturday in international competition. Now 26-1. The other
27-1 technically now, I think, because he won against Finland,
you're right.
We'll
Correct. You are correct. Thank you. Now, the other question is who plays and who doesn't, because the Sweden game last night was meaningless. So guys were clearly held out because of that. So as you said, McAvoy taken to the hospital, it sounds like with a reported infection of sorts, has been declared out. And I find it amusing, intriguing that the Bruins have now taken control. It's like the Boston Bruins will issue a statement, get out of here. And so he's out. Matthew Tkachuk got hurt against Canada on Saturday, played about half the third period, didn't come back, which, by the way, if he doesn't come back, he's hurt. Like that dude wouldn't go out of that game. Then he didn't play on Monday, makes a ton of sense. Brady Tkachuk, who last night was running around like a madman again, which I wish he wouldn't have. It's a meaningless game. Like, I love the intensity. I love your style, but he literally got himself hurt. So both of the Tkachuks are lower body. We are getting reports that both say that they will play. which I'm hoping is true. It's hockey, so I got some questions.
Matthew
Austin,
Tkachuk said like he joined the broadcast.
yeah.
He's like, I'm playing.
Yeah,
I will be there.
I want to see him on the
You'd
ice.
have to
though.
cage those boys in order to keep them off the ice. Like, I don't think there's any ability. And I believe Brady was held out more precautionary. Mike Sullivan ended up saying too, right? Like, I think it was one of those situations where kind of like Jules Eriksson not playing that Friday before going and joining Team Sweden.
Yeah, now, but on that one, I want to see them on the ice. Like before I exhale completely, Austin Matthews sat out with an upper body aggravation, but I think that was just rest, hopefully. And then Vinny Trocheck actually hurt his hand. He played sparingly after including 1:53 in the third period. So of that entire group, like the Tkachuks gotta play.
Yeah.
Besides that, rank the potential. Matthews is the team captain. Trocheck is a grinder. I like him a lot. But what's your guys' concern about that list of, and I'm sure it's right now countless of guys who, if nothing else, are just banged up.
Yeah, I think Team USA is going to put their best foot forward. They want to. You have to take advantage. Again, this is a grand slam for the NHL in general. I mean, you look went up against the NBA All-Star game, which I don't know that was ever really considered a duel. But really, I think the NHL has absolutely knocked it out of the park with this tournament. You, again, are getting people from the outside. Four Nations was trending. Hockey was trending on Twitter, right? Which is, you don't see that happening ever. So I think because of that, these NHL guys, and not to mention they have their own pride. Again, they have their own want to win. And USA has really kind of given it to Canada internationally at the World Juniors level for the past couple of years too, right? So I think in general, there's a lot of built-up animosity. I think Austin Matthews plays. I don't see how you don't. I think Vinny Trocheck, because he did play, though, after the injury, after leaving the game, I think he gets back in. Again, you might have to assess the amount of time, because certainly all these guys do want to return back to their respective NHL teams and have their greatest second half of the season, right, and make that push toward the playoffs. But I'm not overly concerned that you're going to see guys sitting out and nursing any injuries, even if they are bad. I'm not saying that, again, we all know hockey players, they'll play through pretty much anything.
Right.
I think especially the Tkachuks. I can't imagine you let those boys off the chains, man. Let's go. I don't need a fight to start it off. That was fun. That was great.
I don't think we'll get that again.
I don't think we need that again. I think we need to just let her rip from puck drop. But yeah, I think everybody will be in. I'm very curious. There has been an illness going around Four Nations, so having a defenseman suddenly get sick isn't crazy, and then Quinn Hughes slides right in. And Canada on the other side is getting Cale Makar back, right? I mean, they're healthy, so you need to have everybody in that top lineup in order to expose Canada's weaknesses.
Yeah, I don't see anybody that is on the injury report right now not being in the game. Austin Matthews, I don't think he's going to let Mitch Marner rail on him the rest of the season in Toronto. Like, hey, remember when you couldn't play? Remember when you weren't healthy enough? Like, he's going to play. And I bet you what'd you say, the upper body irritation or whatever it was more code for maybe he's banged up, but also this game is meaningless. Austin Matthews seems a little more prone, to me at least, to be like, yeah, this game is meaningless. I'll sit out, but let's think of a good excuse. Whereas Brady Tkachuk is like, I'm going to go out there and give 110% in a meaningless game.
Yeah. Don't do that.
And exactly. Yeah. Both Tkachuks, I think, are going to be back in the lineup no matter what. I take Matthews' word for it, and they're both psychotic enough to where, like, if they were double amputees after Sweden, they would be in the lineup no matter what. They're playing. You would have to physically restrain them from getting on the ice. So I think everybody that is a question mark right now probably gets in the lineup. It's just a matter of, are they 80%? Are they 90%? Are they 100%? But I think everybody's playing.
So, Jessi, what was your first thought when, and I mean, nobody, I don't think, at least on their couch on Saturday, saw this coming. What was your thought when we had not one, not two, but three fights in the first 9 seconds of a hockey game?
It elevated that electricity immediately, right? Again, I still get goosebumps a little bit. The vibe at TR's was awesome. It was so great. I mean, you're getting USA chants. They're playing Freebird every chance they get. It was brilliant. And again, it felt very made for TV. And I think it was genuine. I agree with what Brandon Hagel said. He's like, I'm not doing this necessarily to up the dramatics. I think it's hilarious that it's the brothers starting this, the two guys that are these agitators, right? And that are very good players in addition to being agitators.
Right.
But it took me a little by surprise to get
Yeah.
the three. I mean, the first two, I think I count more so. JT Miller smoking himself in the face wasn't exactly a fight per se. I
Well,
didn't
that was a
feel.
mismatch too.
Did you see?
He
Cole
was
Parayko's a
fighting up.
big dude, man.
He was
Ooh,
up what 3 classes there? Like he was
easily.
fighting a guy who could have kicked his ever loving ass.
Yes, it was. But I mean, it does. It gets that momentum. And I think for USA, they had to set that tone. They had to, I think, remind Canada because again, between the booing of the anthem, between it being an away game, kind of all of those feelings and all of that energy, that set the tone saying, hey, we're here. We are the gritty players. We are coming to win this game no matter what. I thought it was fantastic. Again, I don't need to see it replayed out on Thursday. I need them to just get to some really good hockey because that's the other great thing about these two teams matching up. They are the best teams in the tournament. I think we all knew that heading into it. They proved it with some really good matchups against Finland and Sweden throughout the course. I don't want to ignore that either, but I'm excited for some really freaking good hockey. I'll take overtime. I thought Saturday would go into overtime.
Oh God, you couldn't take overtime. No, you could. Your heart
but
couldn't take
I love
overtime.
that energy. I love that
Oh, it
anxious
is great.
energy. You know, it's
Yes.
just so like, give me another beer, man. Like I'm so ready to go.
It was incredible. It was absolutely and the thing about it though is you got the 3 fights in 9 seconds. You got 3 fights done, right? And then not only did you not have more fights, but it turned into a marvelous game. Yeah. Like this is the type of game because of the talent that doesn't happen. Like this can't be a random, Oilers and take your pick of really good team, Colorado game. Because the level of play in this game was so incredible. So, you got the pop, to your point, Jess, from the 3 fights was awesome. But then you got this just marvelous, marvelous exhibition of this sport. And it was, to me, it was like the best Olympic Games with the pro players. But the difference is you can't fight there. Mm-hmm. So the tone can't be set because you get tossed. But I just, it's probably not the best game I've seen, but I'm 55. It's among the best because you got the fighting, and then you get this display of the sport, which was magnificent.
Yeah, because when you get it had the intensity of a playoff matchup, like Battle of Alberta, but it's game 4, and they've had all of these emotions stewing and steaming together, but you got it right from the jump, and it's not like you have a fourth line that is just, guys making $2 million or less going out there and they're throwing the body around, but the skill necessarily isn't there. Every single line on the ice, there's no drop off in talent. It is the best of the best. I mean, it's a best on best tournament is what they're calling it, minus the Russians not being a part of it. But this is exactly what I think for anybody that is a casual fan, and we've seen this now, eyes gravitating, especially going up against a very lackluster NBA All-Star weekend. A lot of eyes gravitated towards this Four Nations face-off. The NHL has capitalized really well, and for all the games to get a spotlight, Saturday night was terrific because 60 minutes of physicality, hostility, but also high-end skill, dazzling skating. It was a perfect combination that a lot of people, casual, are probably thinking that's going to be the exact same case Thursday. I think you both are right. The fighting is not going to be there. I think there's probably an understanding and probably a subtle message passed down from the powers that be saying, look, we're not going to do that again. You're back in action Saturday. You don't have time.
Be like Slapshot.
Exactly.
The Kachucks. The Kachucks.
Ogie Oglethorpe is not
guys, I can't control them.
Or they're yelling at him during the anthem. Listening to the song.
Yeah. Anyway, one word from you. One more word. Listening to the effing song. I mean, those kids are nuts. It's just great. They are absolutely crazy.
And I talked with Joe O'Donnell about this again. I was like, I always, I've Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, fine. I fell in love with them at the Four Nations all of a sudden. I'm like, these guys, man. Yes. I am all in.
Brady
I love
is so
it.
cute though because he
He looks like a
follows
thumb.
Matt like a
He
puppy
looks
dog.
like a thumb. Yes.
You ever seen Spy Kids?
Yeah.
But I mean,
yes.
yeah,
The thumb.
He's a thumb.
I have not. But I love like you could tell he idolizes Matt.
Yeah. I think their family and that's been pretty well documented since the boys got into the league. Like their family is genuinely so close and they're so supportive of each other. Like they even give their sister, who's a very good lacrosse player, I think at the collegiate level,
Yep.
a lot of props and attention too, and trying to always lift her and the family is just kind of always there together. Like I love it. I think that's very genuine and authentic to see them supporting one another. And Big Walt, they played like him. They play like him, right? Like you can't go wrong with the Keith
Big Walt was,
reincarnated.
Keith was
twice.
fantastic.
Yeah,
he is
I love it.
absolute monster. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Did I ever
he
tell
is.
you guys that I actually quote, I didn't coach him. I was in charge of a youth summer hockey camp and Matthew Kachuk was in my little group as like a child. Like he was probably 13, maybe. Yeah, when I was in college. Fun
He's
fact.
what, 27 now? 26?
I don't even know. But I just remember because he was like, yeah, I'm Matthew Kachuk. And I was like your dad's Keith Kachuk?
Like
and
you're-
he's like,
And you
yeah.
just said, so you're crazy.
I didn't. He was kind of a funny, like again, they're little teenagers at this like away
Right.
hockey camp because it was Ames had hosted the like USA Hockey Elite camp. So yeah, fun
Ames
fact.
had?
Ames did. They got
How did
Ames.
How did
It was
Ames,
the
Iowa
Midwest.
end up with
I
that?
met
Nation.
Al McGinnis at this camp. Al McGinnis was coaching at the camp. It was
what
incredible.
a slap shot.
Yeah.
What Al McInnis howitzer with the old wooden stick.
Right? Yeah.
Saw him play a lot.
My first NHL interview was with him. So there we go.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow. So what can Jessi, to your earlier point, what can the league do to capitalize here? So, cause like, it's such a special, like, it's partially because it's been 8 years and like the McDavids were just champing at the bit, right? Like they have wanted this for so long. It's paid off. It's been great. How do you capitalize on this? And more importantly, I allude to the Winter Classic, not screw it up. Because this feels like a golden opportunity. And I will say this, it's probably and should create fans, but the cautionary thing there is, okay, that's cool. But when we return to play on Saturday, the games aren't the same. But like, what do you think the league can do to take this momentum and try and harness it, run with it?
Yeah, as you'd mentioned, you don't want to oversaturate it like you've done with Stadium Series and the Winter Classic, and kind of you're losing that luster because it's so much, so constantly. I think it was a great step to announce the World Cup of Hockey's return, right? That's going to be a very similar situation, but allowing for more players. It's a great way to get people excited for the Olympics next year, too. If I were the NHL, I'd have some fun with it, too. I'd, have these guys remind, like, hey, did you like get the Kachuk brothers doing some social media things, get them doing some quick commercial hits. I think the other thing, and it's not even specific to Four Nations, but in general, TNT has done a tremendous job with all of their pre and post, all of their broadcasting. I think continue to utilize the personalities there to really lift up the NHL as a whole and lift up hockey, because I go back to when they started, I believe, was it 2 years ago now? I think TNT. I noticed it mostly last year. Is it three? Like last year in particular, I was like, God, it's just so good. Like it's just so good from start to finish. And I think Four Nations has expanded on that. I think continuing to get as much TNT involvement as they can. I'm sure the ESPN situation is a great partnership as well. I'm loving what TNT brings.
You think it is? You really think it's great? They dumped out
it's
on
ESPN,
Saturday night.
so it sounds like that. I think that's by name mostly.
Like I flipped on Saturday night, right? It's like this unbelievable game. And like TNT last night had a great post-game show. Like I'm with you. They're so good. And Biz is so good and so passionate. I mean, he's a Canadian, but he's still fun because he's so passionate. But I think you're right. I will say this, and I appealed on the show that we did on Monday with AJ. Can we just please dump All-Star now? Like, I don't want All-Star anymore. Do the Olympics, then just do something. I don't know what you're going to do. Do something for corporate sponsors. Send them to the Caribbean. I don't give a crap. And then, yes, in 2028, it goes World Cup, which hopefully is what? Germany, Russia, Czechia, like
Well, and that's the thing. You have to figure out how, and because they said they're not going to do any combinations, right? Like when they had last had it, it was North America versus
it
the
can't
world
be.
or whatever. But
Yes,
then it's like, how do
I don't
you
want that.
allow? Because
Yeah, and I think what Jessi is
those best
there you
players in, yeah, was that me?
You cut
There
out
is-
for a second.
a little bit of cut.
My dog
That's
was
fine.
barking. You cut out. It's just
Talking,
bad
you know,
one
I was,
here.
I'm bringing
It's
up contracts with Josiah McDavid again, probably is why
Yeah.
Billy was like, cancel that. But I am going to be curious, yeah, to see how you include, because currently as it sits, like Finland was almost maxed out at NHL players that were eligible, right? Like, so you got to figure out what that looks like. But I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, All-Star has nothing. You remember when Kucherov barely like touched the puck,
That was last
like,
year.
and he like got himself eliminated? Yeah, like clearly the guys don't have an interest there too. So also, to be fair to your players, if you're asking them to do anything during the break, have it be something that they want to be a part of. And right now it appears very much so that this would be that.
And make that be the bye week too then. So instead of these stupid like because we've been doing for 2 years now, if I'm correct, All-Star and a bye week that's separate.
Mm-hmm.
So make that just be a bye week, and I think for the World Cup, you're going to have to allow teams to field players that are playing, you know, for or in their country, like because there's no way to field a German team, but you need Draisaitl.
Yeah.
So like I'm fine with that, but I mean this feels like incredible momentum. And I just want a sport that we all love, Age, to grab it. And so, yes, I do think, though, that the fact that they have a TV partner that's done a fantastic job, and the fact that they now have such a hold on, you know, Twitter and social platforms definitely could help them out.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a little earlier, too. Like, this February time is, like, fine. And I get that's normally when the All-Star game is, but I almost want it to, like, be a seamless transition if it has to be in the middle of the season to go from World Juniors, that championship, straight into, all right, now you're going to get the big guns, international play. This timing wise, if if somebody gets hurt, like Shea Theodore, obviously the timetable for him obviously is without a doubt going to be right at the playoffs. But if it was somebody else, maybe they're out for the season. All of a sudden they go into the boards weird. Brady Tkachuk goes in with his knee wrong into the post, and all of a sudden, you know, he's out, something like that. It needs to be a little earlier to allow for some sort of, I guess, recoup time so that some guy can be 100% if they do get injured, if they're going to play 110% on this international stage. As much as I would like it to be like Judd has proposed right at the beginning of the season, almost like a lead-in tournament to the year. Apparently, a lot of the players don't like that. It makes their year shorter. You know what? I would argue your career is short enough as is. Like, why not maximize as much hockey as possible? But that's also the guy sitting here talking, not playing. If it's got to be in the season, a little earlier, kind of like that mid-January type. So you do get an extra month or so of health if needed for the playoff run.
I think the fact that, so yes, I would prefer it from a playing standpoint in September, because if you get hurt, then, you know, odds are you're back by, I don't know, take your pick, January or something like that.
Yeah.
But the ratings are going to shred me, because they're going to say, look at what we did. If you hold this in September, you don't get these amount of people to tune in. So
It's
I think
football
we're
season, baby. Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
I think their biggest thing is they're looking at when we're not going up
Exactly.
against football, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, I think the reality now with the success of this is I think we just have to be prepared for it. The fact that the league really isn't going to care, that it alters its actual season. Like, guys are going to get hurt. Like you don't play like this and have guys come away unscathed. So that's the reality. But I guess the trade-off is, you know, the Stanley Cup Finals might draw this sort of attention at times, but even then, it's iffy in my opinion. So, like, this is the best product that this league has given us since when? 2014 Sochi games? Because the last World Cup,
I mean, the only thing that was really good
on.
about that was Oshie. Like, I really don't remember anything beyond Oshie's shootout,
So?
right? Like, I always go back to that. Like, 2010 was
2010
the Olympics, right? Like, that was like, God, that was so good.
Vancouver. You're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's it. And the 2016 thing I didn't think worked well, including because they did that like Young Guns team, and it felt really shticky. Like it didn't feel like that's not a country.
But that was the first iteration of the 3-on-3 overtime, and you had the Young Guns against like Team Sweden or Team Europe or whatever. Because I remember Hank being in goal against McDavid and McKinnon and like Matthews, and that was an unbelievable 3-person. Like it was just so fast, and I think the Sedins were even in that point, if my memory serves correct. So like,
I remember loving the idea because that was when Austin Matthews was the young, like he was that next generation. It felt very much of like a passing of the baton type of situation for the NHL to be doing. Like, hey, these are, because it was funny. And I don't know if you guys saw the NHL, they were doing their quarter team releases, right? And I got into this conversation with my husband, and I'm always right because he's always wrong. And so this is also another reminder of this.
Make sure you play this one, Mike.
With the quarter. So he didn't agree with the quarter century team, which had like Quinn Hughes and stuff like that on it. Because again, this is from 2000 to 2025. That's your quarter that they're focusing on. But if it was probably a really hard team to pick, because I remember the Team USA being really good in the 90s, right? You had really good players when they had that international competition.
God, yeah.
But there was probably a good 10 years where USA Hockey didn't really have any great superstars. Tim Thomas, maybe, in net. Like, you look at the guys that you had. Ryan Suter was considered when he made the second team. But I think that's what I liked about the Young Guns, is because finally you had these American prospects that were going to be so good. And you had these NHL guys. And I think maybe that's why that was a long story going on. Again, I was right, because these were Quinn Hughes. He doesn't think Quinn Hughes is a top defenseman. Let me just put that out there. Put him on blast.
Mike's the same, but what the hell is he talking about? He's one of the best defensemen out there.
That's what I said. He's like, no, he's not. And I was like, yes, he is.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's fantastic. But no, like I agree that was cool to get those players in it. I'm just saying it means 100% more when they actually have their flag on their jersey or their, like it's like if you're playing with a bunch of guys, that's awesome, but that's a team. This is your country. Like this is what makes it so special. Jessi, what do you think about the OT format? And just to be clear, this is a National Hockey League run and ruled tournament, but one tweak is instead of 5, we get a 10 OT session and then a shootout, which almost inevitably means that you're not going to get to the shootout. What were your thoughts, or what are your thoughts on the extended OT?
I love it. I mean, I've been a proponent of play until your legs fall off in overtime, right? I understand during the regular season, just to get things moving along, selfishly, I want to go home too, right? So I don't mind a shootout during the course of 82 games. But I love 10 minutes. It's exhausting. I mean, those guys were gassed without question. And you're right, Judd, you're not going to see them finish that 10 minutes and get into a shootout likely, because they're going to figure out a way to finish it. But it was good hockey too. It was fun. Granted, you're seeing Cale Makar, Connor McDavid, and Sidney Crosby on the ice at the same time in a 3-on-3 situation, which is incredible. But I support 10 minutes. I know the guys don't love it, so I can imagine that's a big NHLPA, NHL headbutt there. But I think it's great, just because there's never that much excitement surrounding a shootout. You don't see the dazzling effects. And if any Gophers make the NHL, they're never going to score in the shootout, so you might as well give them a better chance.
They can't score 3-on-3.
Do you
it's just
know they
unbelievable.
cannot? No, but they've never scored in the shootout. Not only have they never won a shootout,
I've got it right here. I've got the stat. It's unbelievable how a team as skilled as Bob's Gophers cannot score. It is absolutely phenomenal. Give me a second here, because I've got.
I didn't realize. I thought they just hadn't won, and then
the Gophers on Saturday at Michigan fell to 0 for their last 28 in attempts. They are.
You mean like 28 individual skaters have attempted a shootout?
Yes.
And they have not scored.
It's been like years.
Not scored.
It's been like years.
What?
Isn't that mind-boggling?
They can't score.
Like, it's not that you just don't win. You don't score.
They don't score.
And these are, Jimmy Snuggerud, one of the best players coming into the NHL.
Look
Like, you have guys that are so talented.
Yeah.
Can't score one-on-one.
They've got how many draft picks and first-round picks? Miller, Snuggerud. Like, you go through that entire list, they are 0 for their last 28. It goes back like a few years, like years.
That's incredible.
It's the damnedest thing of all time. I don't know if they don't practice it. I don't know. Like, the funny thing is, in
I mean, it
in
doesn't
col-
matter anyway in the standings,
Exactly.
right?
That's
Like,
the thing. Well, it matters in the standings. It doesn't reflect in the RPI, which is what puts
okay.
you in the tournament. So they break the tie in the standings, but then when you feed all of the statistics and wins, losses, blah 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 into the RPI machine, it doesn't care. But nonetheless, it's still, how do you have that much talent and not score a goal? So here's the thing I think though. Here's why I like the extended OT, Jessi. You know what I've seen? I think it incentivizes guys to try to score. I think you have a lot less of this. Let's drop the puck back. Like my biggest thing is the shorter OT, which I loved at one time, has turned into this mind-numbing. Let's take the puck back to my blue line, and then we're going to take it back behind my. We're going to maintain possession to try to set up the perfect play. I think the threat of okay, that's fine, but we're going to go for an extra 5 incentivizes guys to actually try to score. So I like this because I think you would get games done because the threat of going 10 absolutely terrifies guys.
That's probably a good point. Do you also think it's the point system in which they have for?
It's another
Isn't
great.
that also different? I think
Yes,
that's the
3-2-1.
Yes. So I feel like that's also another
It is.
way to get
Great
guys
point.
to play harder is because, all right, well, I'm not just okay. I'm not just set like, yep, this is fine. I get this point. No big deal, whatever. Okay, now we're going to go to a shootout. I get the point. Like I think having the fact that you get nothing when you lose is a big way to do it. So I would look at that more so. But yeah, you're probably right too. Guys want to score, get off the ice. Like I'm done with this game. Let's move on. Let's get home. It'd be interesting. I'd like to see like the Athletics anonymous player polls and see what the guys thought about it.
And age, the nice thing too, your depth guys would have to play.
And that's what I like. You're not going to have your top 2 lines cycling back and forth, because after like 3 minutes, 4 minutes of that, they're going to be gassed. You're going to get Trennan out there. You're going to get Jakub Lauko out there. You're going to get these guys that are just grinders. And maybe Murat Husnudinov is able to blow past another fourth liner and drive in and score. And that's, going to be his heroic moment for the season. But getting those guys worked in is going to open up the game so much more. And as much as they don't want it, it's going to push them, like Judd's saying, to try to score, because you can't just sit back. It's like, well, we know we have 4 really good shootout guys. I've seen them in practice. Let's kill 45 seconds here. Let's gather. Okay, maybe I'll meander up ice and okay, let's cycle back. I didn't like the way that zone entry looked. It's like, well, now you've wasted half the overtime and you've taken 0 shots on goal. The other team hasn't touched the puck. I want offense. I want action. I think that's going to be the right way to do it.
Yes.
You want to know what I really want to take away from this 4 Nations besides a gold medal for Team USA? I want to take away this Matt Boldy that plays like this in a USA hockey jersey because he did it at World Championships. And I want to take that type of Matt Boldy and pluck him and put him right into the Wild jersey and say, this is how you also play when you're wearing a Minnesota Wild jersey.
Can I submit my reasoning on why I think we're seeing this as opposed to the Boldy with the Wild? Here's first of all, yes, he's playing on what? 3rd line consistently?
Yes.
So that makes a difference. But here's the thing that could translate to him with the top line. Let's just say Kaprizov's back, and let's say he plays with him. Or Kaprizov's out. Zuccarello, Rossi, Boldy. Here's my theory on this whole thing. He falls in love with thinking he has to show skill here. So what do we get? We get the Boldy cycling around the net, doing the Zucky things. Like Zuccarello's legitimately a really good passer with great vision of the entire ice, which is a gift. But Bold's thing is he falls into the trap of being, well, I'm good. It's like, no, dude, you are good, but you're better when you are in front of the net, when you are creating havoc, when you are playing this game. Like this game to me is a result of him realizing that this is going to be how he contributes to, essentially, or it is, an all-star team. Well, why not play like this? Like he's a first-line guy, probably, right? Here?
Yeah.
But he can play like he's playing on the 3rd line in this tournament here. The Wild doesn't need him to make these sexy, great plays. They got guys that can do that. So I think it's very plausible for John Hines now, who's had a front row seat to this entire tournament, to sit Bolds down and say, dude, this is what you need. I never have to see you cycle with the puck again. You can do it. That's awesome. It's not your strength. So I'm with you, Jess, but I think that there's a very clear-cut map here to how you get that Boldy here consistently. And I think part of it is to, for lack of a better term, dumb down his game. You don't need to be Kirill. You don't need to be Zuki. You need to be a power forward. And this is a power forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's where his success was coming from at the beginning of the year. He was using that grittiness. He was playing a little bit more like Jules Eriksson than he was this very skilled elite player. Did I come out? I cut out again, didn't I? I saw.
No, you're good.
Oh, no, you're fine now.
Guys, I apologize.
You're fine now. I'm just glad you got the good connection back. For the
Thank
most
you.
part.
We're trying. We're working through it.
As opposed to when Mike went cheap on you.
I know. Just tear down Mike every time we can get on here.
No,
but no, I think he needs, in addition to finding the consistency in his game, he needs to play like that without question. And you do hope that John Hines and Bill Guerin even mentions that to him. Like, do you see what you're doing here? Like the difference. And I think part of the reason he's going so hard is not only because he knows that's his role on the third line, but he wants to assert himself amongst the USA Hockey elites, right? Like he wants to work his way up in that conversation and say, hey, I am out here. And I think he's done a tremendous job this tournament in doing that. He's right there with the conversation of the Kachucks and the Matthews and the rest of the top forwards there for Team USA. But yeah, I just hope that this can continue. I am very, very curious, not just for Boldy and the Minnesota Wild guys, but in general, how they all these players return. Is there going to be a letdown? Is there going to be kind of like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. This has been a lot. And there was all these emotions to go into this tournament. And now we're back and now we're doing a playoff push. Or is it going to elevate everybody? I don't know. I think that's another thing that the NHL is probably going to consider is how does this now affect the second half of our regular season, which is generally their most exciting time before the Stanley Cups is, how did these players perform and react to having just kind of given it all for 3 or 4 games?
Yeah, this has been, I think, a good experience nonetheless, because if anything, he kind of has, I feel like, more free range to do what Matt Boldy wants to do when he's with the Wild. Whereas here, he's third line. He has a role. They're kind of forcing him into a box of this is the style of hockey you're going to play. This is what's going to work in this lineup. Hopefully that doesn't shake as soon as he puts on a green sweater instead of a navy blue one. Because I think even though like third line role, this is what he's doing, you can easily translate that into a first line, second line, like 1A, 1B line type of guy that can play this physical, havoc wreaking. Sure, you have the skill with you, but for the most part, you are the power forward build. Like you can take this gameplay style, and maybe that then will rub off on some of the other Minnesota Wild members who, similar to what we've seen with Matt Boldy, stop trying to do the extra stuff. Stop trying to make that extra pass. Shoot the puck, throw the body, throw the shoulder, drive the net hard. That's take this USA Hockey, bring it back to Minnesota.
All right, 5 stars. 5 players from this team are have been on the teams. Sweden, Eriksson, Brodin, Gustafsson. The U.S. team, Boldy and Faber. Jessi, start with you. Rank them 1 to 5 in terms of not their stats, but just your impressions, your thoughts on their play in the tournament with 1 game left. So it is a little bit subject to change for the U.S. team.
I mean, I'll put Boldy number 1. I think he's kind of made the most noise, not even just stats-wise, but in general, I've noticed him every single game, and mostly in good ways. And now, again, he's doing that on a very deep USA Hockey team. So I think that's why I would put him at number 1. I'd put Jules Eriksson right up there for Sweden. I thought he had a hell of a tournament with Sweden, and I'd actually put Broads probably 3 because same. I think he really buoyed that blue line. I was a little curious to see how he'd pair with Victor Hedman, who's such a strong offensive defenseman, but I really liked him. And then I would put Fabes, who I don't think he's been very noticeable, but in a quiet manner, if that makes sense, right? Because again, he's been eating up these minutes. He's doing all the things that we know here in Minnesota he can do. But he's just kind of that second string to Charlie McAvoy, which again, I knew they looked alike. My goodness, I did not realize they are the same person in the way they play, in the way they look. I don't think I've ever paid that much attention to it.
They both got those fat
They're
kid
twins.
cheeks.
Yes, like
They both got that I don't know why, and it will eventually. In fact, McAvoy has lost fat in his cheeks
Because
in
he's
the last
quite a bit
couple of
older
years
than
because he's
Faves,
older.
right? Yeah.
But yes, but they both have that. They both have that like teenage boy flushed look that is prevalent in hockey. TJ Oshie used to have that.
Yes.
The same
that's
thing
fair.
of like fat cheeks that were red. It's not because they're
Kind
fat.
of. No.
They're just fat cheeks.
Did he?
Yes. Oh yeah. I covered
Okay.
him at the state tournament when he played at the X for War Road, and he definitely had the fat
He was in
cheeks.
high school, but he didn't have it.
I know, but I'm saying, but McAvoy had that too. It's starting to go away, but McAvoy and Fabes, you are correct.
Yeah.
I've always thought that they basically look like they easily could pass as brothers.
And they do. They play similar, like, which is a great credit to Brock.
Although the McAvoy hit on McDavid, holy shnikes. I think that set the whole tone. Forget the fights.
Yeah.
That to me established the tone of that entire game.
The hits on McDavid and Crosby, both.
Yes.
Like, just, yes.
And the Kachucks are like slashing them. They're slashing like Crosby between whistles and stuff. So Boldy,
and then I would put
Eric,
Gus, not because I thought Gus had a bad tourney, but I thought he was fine.
he's definitely fine.
You know? Yeah,
Yep.
I would say he's
So,
5. He was fine.
Boldy, Eriksson, Brodin, Faber, and Gus for Jessi. AJ, go ahead. Shoot.
I'll go same list, but I have to swab Eriksson for the top. I think him on Sweden, he shined a lot more than I expected, and you've seen him step up because, frankly, there were some other Sweden members that I thought were going to have great tournaments and basically no-showed. EP40, Patterson, where were you?
Did you
Where
see
were
that
ya?
tweet yesterday where they were like, you know how USA was losing guys left and right, and they were saying, I love how the players are all and even like Wes McCauley left the game because he got sick or whatever, and they're like, I love that players are leaving one by one, so it's just JT Miller and Elias Pettersson out on the.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's awesome.
Like, that would be so good.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I feel like Vancouver is regretting more and more that JT Miller was the one that they said see ya to, because Elias has not been good for quite some time now.
What's happened to him? He signed the contract, and then it's like he's just slowly but surely, and now it's bad, regress. So it is weird. So age, Eck 1, Boldy 2, Brodin 3, Fabes 4, and Gus 5.
Yeah, I would say that.
I agree with you. I think Joel Eriksson Ek was marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
Like that guy, he was creating, he was doing all of the things that he does here, which is awesome, but he was doing them against the best, and he still did it. I would put Boldy 2, Faber 3. That game on Saturday, that dude was on the ice with Canada, with the extra attacker. Like, he got off to a rough start in game 1, and by game 2, he was great. I would put Broads 4, Gus 5. And the thing with Broads, too, is it is remarkable. So we got halfway through the game last night, and I'm like, is Brodin even playing? Like, I don't think I've seen him out here. And of course he was. That's Broads.
Yeah.
Like, you just totally are like, is he playing? But of course he's playing.
Same thing against Finland. I was like, and luckily ESPN has that ticker that takes up half the GD screen.
Don't start age on that. Don't start age on that. No.
But I did.
TNT fixed it. They made it transparent.
Yep.
Like,
and it's a small, skinny.
Anybody that does video production would know how easy of a fix that is, but I digress. But I had to watch that because I'm like, I don't think I've seen Brodin take a shift in a while. Like, I was literally trying to monitor and be like, is he hurt? Is this something we need to be concerned? I'm like, nope, he's there. But yeah, he's doing all the right things. It was just kind of, yeah, you're right. Broads being Broads, magical.
He totally gets lost. All right, last thing, your prediction for Thursday. Give me a score. Jess, you hinted or said that you think it might go into OT. What is your prediction for Thursday?
6-5. I want all the velocity going. I want 6-5 USA.
You're gonna get 11 goals.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Hellebuyck looked human against Canada on Saturday, which I did not love. Like, there were, I'm not saying he played bad. I thought he looked. I mean, granted, Connor McDavid's goal is incredible.
That goal didn't
incredible. It didn't bother me.
Binnington
became unraveled yesterday too, which I live for. I absolutely live for that. But I do. I want to see a high. Again, this is me just being selfish. It's not based on necessarily true stats. I want 6-5. I want all of the goals and the dramatics. I just want.
So 6-5 third period goal to win it. Like how does this?
No, we're going overtime.
Okay.
Scored probably 7 minutes into the.
And who scores it then?
Matt Boldy. I'm just kidding. It'll be a Kachuk. Let's go with Matthew Kachuk.
Okay.
Come
on, Age.
I'll be public enemy number one here. I'm gonna go 4-2 Canada with an empty netter. I think that top line is just gonna be simply like Sidney Crosby is gonna muster any sort of black magic that he has left in his career to rally the troops.
Yeah.
They're gonna be on fire. Like McDavid is gonna be a man possessed. McKinnon is gonna see red the entire night.
Yeah.
They're and like narrative wise too, like you have so many people taking a victory lap over a preliminary game. Like that Saturday night at this point does not matter. I've seen enough movies and I've seen enough TV shows to know how this works. I think it's going to end in heartbreak.
It's probably going to realistically, but I don't want to.
I hate the fact that you're right though. I was thinking about that very thing. Saturday is like it was awesome. Don't get me wrong, but in the big picture now, it's meaningless. Yeah. And it did.
It was a cool like 8 hours where we
100%.
got to like, but the next day it's like,
I know.
There was no trophy, there was no medal given.
It felt like they won the tournament.
It would have felt better if Canada lost yesterday, right? Because then it's like, all right, we did it basically. Like that victory seals it kind of.
But then you didn't want them to lose, right? Because like I wanted this match. Like, I want the matchup. I mean, if Canada had lost, this game would be on ESPN 12. We're just going to move it to another one of our networks. Let's move it to Home Shopping Network or something like that. So, like, this is huge, but it did feel like they won it. I think the U.S. Here's what I think. I think it's going to be 4-3. I think the U.S. wins because of goaltending.
Okay.
I think the U.S. wins because of goaltending. Binnington has played, I think, pretty well. But the problem is the goals against aren't great goals.
No.
On Saturday night, those first two, he is squared up to, the first one was awful. It can't go in. Like, that's a bad goal on a Saturday night at the X. And the second one, the Larkin goal is a snipe, but in that tournament, probably has to be stopped. I saw this tweet put out this morning, the statistic, which I found to be intriguing. So, and I think I talked about this with you guys last week. Hellebuck has been very mortal in the playoffs for the Jets. But the tweet that I saw is in international competition, he is 11-1-0 with a 1.5 GAA, a 94% save percentage, and 2 shutouts. So he has been, and it's an all-star team. So I think that it's going to be close. If Canada had goaltending, I would pick them. But I think that the U.S. wins based on, because when Binnington starts to implode, it can go real. Now, and dude won a cup. But I'm just saying, I think the U.S. prevails, but I'm not super confident.
Here's what I need. Here's what I'm going to play out the scenario for you guys.
Okay.
Recalling Slapshot again. The Kachuk brothers are going to circle him and tell him and say all these little chirps into his ear and just really get into his hug, like Hannaran. Yeah, like
I know.
I hear your wife likes it.
Oh
like,
boy,
really just get into his head and just drive him crazy because the dude loses it. It's so easy to mess it with his brain.
Like yesterday.
Yes.
Like he totally freaked out.
Like his country. I go back to Marc-Andre Fleury should have been a third goalie on this team, just out of respect.
Well,
I think
Capitals,
really cruel. Like
Thompson,
it would have been so great.
Thompson should be starting for him.
I mean, yeah.
He evidently didn't get along with Bruce Cassidy and DeBoer.
Mm.
And that is why he supposedly was not picked. That being said, he should be not just on the roster, he should be their starting goaltender instead of, I mean, Binnington can look great, and dude against was that Sweden? Finland. Right? Was phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that OT, he was great. Mm-hmm. But anyway, long story short.
The OT Sweden.
Yeah, Sweden.
Finland didn't go. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, long story short, I think he to me is the weak link.
Massive curveball would be Aiden Hill in net on Thursday night, which I think he's a better goaltender, like consistently. But Binnington does have higher peaks, I would say. My issue with why I'm going with 4-2 empty net for Canada win.
It's because you don't like
is because I think what we saw on Saturday.
Yep.
I think the Kachucks are
Say
going to
it
go.
louder so other people can hear it. Wow.
Because you don't like our country. That's why you're
Oh
picking
my
against
god,
us.
no! Because I think they're
Oh,
going to go
so
from the hero to villain of. They're going to be unhinged. They're going to be undisciplined. I have a feeling they're going to put the U.S.
Oh,
on the
no.
penalty kill too early and too often, and it's just going to be bang bang. And all of a sudden, you're in a hole. They're going to be playing catch up the whole game. You can't. Somebody's going to get frustrated. They're going to think, okay, I'm hurt. I can't play to my ability. I have to play this physical game. I'm going to send somebody headfirst in the boards.
Oh, boy. That's a problem.
And then, it's like that's where my mindset goes for this. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope you both are right and I'm wrong.
If they do that,
Jessi's always right. Nobody else is right.
If they do that, my respect for them goes way down. Like if they are unhinged enough to cost their team, because if you put that Canadian power play, I'm sorry, it's curtains.
Disgusting. It should be illegal, that power play. Like that.
And also, just to backtrack on myself, I don't think they're going to put like a dirty play. I think they're just going to be like, they're going to be grabbing, they're going to be holding guys, or there's going to be an errant stick that trips somebody. I think they're just going to be reckless, and it puts the U.S. in a bad situation. And Canada's going to take advantage.
All right.
But Mike Sullivan's a good coach. He can rein him in.
Well, I mean, that has to be the locker room speech, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got to be disciplined. You've got to be smart. Like the fighting thing was great because it did set a tempo, but that tempo is now set, and it doesn't need to be set again. And what Sully has to do is get done with his speech and say, if you don't win this game, you're going to take it to your grave. Start to walk away and turn around and say, effing grave. That's what he needs to do. We need the Herb speech.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I love that movie. All right.
Before we wrap up.
Yes.
I know, like these guys, we've been talking about the guys that have been going super, super hard for the Four Nations face-off, but they've been getting no time off, unlike their counterparts, their lesser skilled counterparts, who are out surfing the waves. They're soaking in the sun. They're probably, if they're down in the south, hitting the links, just like Jessi is.
Oh, nice transition. I damn near forgot. Thank you.
I
just
was
like Jessi's
wondering
going to be doing with our friends over at Swing Labs. Isn't that right, Jessi?
You know it. And it's a perfect time for club fitting, you guys, because golf season is just around the corner, or maybe spring break. You're going to be hitting the links, which we absolutely love. Stop by Swing Lab and get fit with all new 2025 products from Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, Cobra, Cleveland, and Lab Putters. Their professional club fitters will use data-driven feedback to put any golfer in the right clubs. Swing Lab will also be doing 2 different giveaways for 2 lower bowl tickets to Wild games. The first giveaway will run until February 23rd for Wild vs. Pens on March 9th. The second raffle, February 23rd till March 31st for Wild vs. Dallas Stars in April. Club fitting and purchase required to be entered into the raffle. So not only get yourself ready for golf season, enter to win some Wild tickets while you're at it.
AJ saves the day. I completely forgot.
I didn't know if you guys
sorry.
did it without me, and I was like, well,
no, we didn't. No. I just completely spaced out. Sorry. All right. We will reconvene here next week to talk about what hopefully is a fantastic finale of the tournament, and then the Wild back in action at Detroit on Saturday, and then they start a very busy month of March. Be talking to you soon.